just you get to choose. Right? Like here's the scenario. The environment gives us something which can be perceived as negative, can be perceived as not working, can be perceived as problematic. The world's ending. But we get to choose to see it like that, or we get to choose to see it as an opportunity.
So clearly that it's my responsibility now to do that for other people. If I have information and, other people's success is my success and vice versa.
Because you know what? Like the challenges or the roadblocks are the journey themselves.
There's no big things. It's all little things compounding on top of each other. Coach Nick and I are extremely excited to present a very important Coach's Corner this week. This episode is dedicated to the people who feel they need more hours in the day, who live life in a constant state of stress and anxiety as they take on more than they can handle, and who are their own self-sabotagers when it comes to their success. This one is for you. We talk about how leveling up requires us to live in the unknown, realizing that growth comes from shedding what we are comfortable with. And we've mentioned this in a previous episode. Sometimes to get to great, we have to sacrifice good. Tony Robbins said, "We all get what we tolerate." As you watch this week's episode, we ask that you think about what you're tolerating today that prevents you from growing, from increasing your success. What changes do you need to make? We'll get you thinking on this week's episode of Truth Seekers, Coach's Corner. Welcome everybody to another episode of Truth Seekers, a Coach's Corner today. Coach Nick Davies, thank you so much for joining me today. I've been thinking about whenever we grow, this pesky ceiling of complexity. And it's come up a couple times in some of our previous episodes, but I think it's pretty apropos to bring it up again because we all want more. We all want growth, right? So I think that's a good thing because the more that we grow, the more value we're able to give other people. We always want to help other people, and we talk about prioritizing ourselves in order to do that. So when we prioritize ourselves, our principles aren't in order, and we reach this place to where we feel like we can't do more. Our schedule is full. We're maxed out. We have other commitments in our life. But that's not the end. There's more beyond that. How do you make sense of that? Where do you go from there? How do you keep your head on a swivel and embrace the unknown, if you will, to grow higher than that?
Well, first of all, I'm excited to do Coach's Corner because I feel like it's been a while, Coach, since we just got out there and rode it out on a Coach's Corner. It's just a reminder, I think, that it always feels the same. That stretch of putting yourself in harm's way, as it were, is always available. It's like just a reminder to not be comfortable. I'm doing good, and the more that you're doing good, you get comfortable with that, and then it becomes the same. It's the same stretch, but you've also got more on the line. And perhaps that's the difference as you're starting to play bigger and bigger games. The same stretch, it's the same principle. But what's the difference? The difference is that maybe you've got something to lose.
Yeah. So what you're saying is we've come to these places before. It's not the first time we've had ceilings of complexity. Maybe some of the setting has changed, or some of the game or the players have changed, but it's the same feeling. And no matter what that feeling is, it's still the same thing I guess I see it as embracing the unknown. You're talking about comfortability. Comfortability implies predictability. Even if we're busy, we know what our schedule is looking like. We get used to being busy and being stretched too thin. So the growth opportunity is embracing the unknown. We don't know what's going to happen. We got to try something new to expand and grow. And it's maybe it is a step back to take 2 steps forward. How do you make sense of that process?
Yeah, I think you just got to embrace it. But do you want to make sense of it? I think it comes back down to where do you want to go again, right? Do you say, okay, I'm done? Because that's the other option. So if you say, I'm just going to stay where I am, I'm done. It's either that or you go forward. Because there's no in between.
I make sense of that. how we see ourselves, right? How we identify ourselves. If we identify ourselves as that much of success, then we'll be content with staying there.
Yes.
This is why affirmations are important. There's a fine line with affirmations, right? Where you see yourself, what's true, what do you want to repeat to yourself every day or every week to attract it into your life. There's a line with lying to yourself. Like if you don't really feel those things, then stop doing them. But if you're so tightly tied to your vision and who you are and what you want to achieve, figure out a way to reinforce that in your life. So that becomes your identity. You're creating your identity before you have the success. So once you reach those feelings of complexity, they're just like little roadblocks. It's like, well, I knew this was coming. I knew it wasn't going to be easy. I've had all this success, but I still want more. I see myself, I identify myself as having more success. So now it's like, where do I go from here? And that's where it's the unknown part.
Yeah. If you just get stuck looking at that one little barrier, that one little ceiling of complexity, then you can get completely absorbed into that and forget. No contrast, no context, no scale. So are you saying, Coach, then it just is a case of reminding yourself the journey that you're on
Yes.
and back to thinking big enough?
Yeah, those are either market points to reassess.
Yeah.
Is this how successful I see myself? Or if you already know the answer to that and you've already been dreaming bigger things, this is the time to embrace the unknown. I'm going to take a little divergence here because this is, I've been reading some Joe Dispenza. Have you ever come across Dispenza? Yeah. So I'm reading Becoming Supernatural. I mean, a freaking great book, highly recommend. He talks about the difference between matter and energy. So he's got some theories that matter is created by energy first. That's the whole idea with the Big Bang and, gas is floating everywhere. And then all of a sudden planets pop up. These gases, coalesce together, and then there's these explosions, and then actual physical matter forms. All right, so this is a little esoteric, but let me bring it back here. When we get into these states of stress, it's these very matter states. We're thinking of tangible things. Whereas when we need to grow, we actually need to tap into our creative side, which is just energy, things that excite us, big visions. And when we come to these ceilings of complexity, we try to analyze it in our minds, try to figure out, I got to do this, I got to do this. Sometimes it's just going, this is my big idea. I want to try this. And you're embracing more of the energy than the matter, like the facts and the figures and the analytical mind. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Get in your head, you're dead.
Yeah.
That's why I'm coming back to just focusing on energy, I'm gonna do it no matter what, is the thing that you need. If you've got a strong enough why, you'll put up with whatever how it might be, right? If you're like, when you're committed, because you're like, it's happening no matter what. But that's the pure energy side of it, in your heart side of it. Your mind will find a way if your body tells it to be true. It's like, this is going to happen. Mind, find a way. Okay, well, am I asking questions that provide excuses, or am I asking questions that provide better answers? So,
I think that's so cool. The mind will find a way. It's so true. But how cool is that? Like, we don't know the answer, but we'll find it. We'll get there. It doesn't matter. We don't need to know the how. That's if you get stuck in your head, you're dead, right? If you try to, well, I got to do this, I got to do this. Well, I don't know how I'm going to get there. What do I have to do? I'm not even going to try it because I don't know how to get there. No, that's not how it works. That's not how this works.
Right. I think it came up in an episode last week or maybe the week before. Hear a lot of times people saying, my gosh, yeah, what a great achievement this has been. But if I'd known what it'd take before I started, I might not have done it. Good. I'm glad you didn't know. I hope you're glad that you didn't know as well. Because like you say, you don't need to know the how. And it's good that perhaps we don't. Because if we did, we see the path, man, it might stop us from doing it because there's hardships along the way. So I'd like to just double down on that energy and celebrate that. If you don't know the how, then it's probably the thing to do, right? It's where you're getting the most resistance. What feels most complex? Create a way of rigging the game so you have to go towards it.
Yeah, I like that. I like that a lot. Here's another Dispenzaism. He talks about in Becoming Supernatural, tapping into our resourcefulness. Like, how many times do we not know how we're going to do something, then it just shows up to us. And then once it shows up, just that gratitude, that thankfulness. So he talks about how the mind, our brain, is basically a map of our past. It's just all that's stored up there is memories of our experiences. And so if that's our roadmap, no wonder we don't know what to do, because we only have a record of what we've done in the past. So his theory, and I'm tapping into this and I'm loving it, is that walk around in this state of gratitude, because what gratitude is a thankfulness for something already to have happened. So when your body and your mind are in coherence, that something has already happened, then you'll attract the types of people and the events and just the random acts of serendipity that come into your life for these things to fall into place that you never could have predicted. And it's not on you. We don't have to know the how, but we have to be attached to that outcome that we want without really being attached to it. There's an oxymoron or a juxtaposition there, but walking like in the state that we already have these things, and then they show up and we expect them. It's like we already knew, because we were already thankful that we were already in that gratitude, that thankful state.
Yeah, so it's just, there it is, because I'm that person that has that, or does that, and then when it happens, like, well, yeah, that's it.
Yeah, no surprise.
Yeah, mm-hmm. It's the resourcefulness is all you need. It's never about the resources, just about the resourcefulness. It's one of the key premises that we work with, right, Coach?
Talk more about that, if you could. Resourcefulness. How would you define it? It's a state of,
I can do and find and create anything's possible. It starts with a premise that everything's available at all the times. And if I'm committed to something, I'll find a way. And also to know that I cannot do everything or have everything, but I can have anything. If you direct all your resources into one singular focus, we're back to the magnifying glass and the sun. Sun on its own will warm and heat the earth, but focused in a particular area will set shit on fire. It's taking that power and like magnifying it quite literally. And I like to extend that analogy as well, because in order to have the magnifying glass and the focus and the point of the right thing, you have to have the awareness of knowing what that right thing is for you, and to have that singular approach. But I think of the sun as the awareness, because if you've got the focus, like I've got it, but it's not going fire. Like it's like the clouds going past the sun all the time. It's like sometimes I get a bit of heat, sometimes I don't. Having the awareness, or the awareness to realize that you constantly have to be making sure that the sun is unblocked, along with that focus, those two in combination will allow you to be in that resourceful state. Right? So it's an easy way to find for yourself whether you are in a resourceful state or not, is what you'll be telling yourself. Opposite of what you said, Coach. If I'm not grateful, I'm probably making excuses or telling myself stories of why something is the way it is. Something to someone else, or something happens.
That's hard, I feel like, or it's a muscle that can be exercised. But I'm sure there's people on here who understand that principle. But even still, when they get in those states, it's I don't know. And I've been in those states, and I'm sure you have too, Coach, where we don't feel that resourcefulness. We just feel like out of sorts, and sometimes it's for no reason whatsoever. I think we can make it worse by resisting that. So sometimes, this is our belief system that whenever we're in those states, it's right before a breakthrough. We're right about to find out something about ourselves or our situation that allow us to break through and get to that next level. But it never seems like that when you're in it. So I think we can talk all we want about how that's the catapult, that's the slingshot. But it's about, in those moments, channeling that sun, being aware of what's happening and embracing it. Like that's the good part. This is part of the process. Like this is step number X, in the process. I can't wait to get to the next one because that means, it's a turnaround point.
Absolutely. And like you said, you can't see it when you're in it. Right? That's the thing to be aware of. And that's why it's so important to do what we do. And I hope that when we do, especially when we do a coach's corner, what people can take away from this is not a new thing, because there's no new thing. All these principles we work with, all the same principles. But what happens to me on a very regular basis working with clients is that we'll work on a principle, we'll shine a light on something that someone's doing or not doing, usually. And then they'll say, oh man, I work on my team with that all the time. It's like, yeah, you can see it for other people. You just can't see it for yourself. Mm. And so it's the practice of coming back. So if you're listening to this, watching this, it's like, okay, I'm sure you've heard this before, but where are you not using it? Or where are you not showing up with it? And to check in with yourself, because it's the practice of this which allows you, in the moment when it is loaded with that emotion or that event you didn't expect, that maybe you get that like split second more to respond rather than react. That's all we're looking for. That's the practice. That's when you walk around, everything's great. Like, I'm grateful for everything. It's cool. Sunlight and skills, like, wonderful. It's when something comes like screaming into your life, that's when it becomes more cumbersome. So the practice of the principles here, the practice of gratitude, is almost more, and I like your thoughts on this, Coach, is more important for the times when you're not there than it is the times when you are there.
100%, because it's the hardest thing to do, to be thankful for a state that you'd rather not be in, or it seems like you'd rather not be in. But to know that something else is coming, that's the gratitude right there. Thank you for this new opportunity to learn how I'm about to grow. And all of a sudden, what you've done is disarmed the shittiness that you feel. You feel thankful for this. Like, it's such a different feeling than feeling stuck or feeling unmotivated or feeling like procrastination. And it's about knowing your triggers. This has come up in a few past episodes too. Catching yourself. It's these automatic habits that we go to, whether that's eating or drinking. I from time to time, I eat a bag of chips or something. I'm like, I'm not even hungry. Why am I eating right now? What am I stressed about? What's happening in my life? And I think that's one of my triggers that I've discovered recently, is that sometimes I'll just wander the kitchen and just grab something. And at that moment, it's like, well, what's going on right now? Why am I going to the kitchen for something like this? And so that's just knowing your triggers, understanding when you're putting that on auto drive and how you can bring it back. And like you say, gratitude. Thank you for this. Something good is about to happen. I'm ready for it. Show me.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's a superpower just being able to see it, but it's all the practice, right? It's like, it's all of the things that you do that are outside of the stress, that when there is a stress, you can deal with them. Like, we talked about people in the military or any sort of special services that are training all the time. They're always ready. And, perhaps people in the military, their whole career never actually seen a combat. That's not the point. Like, the point is that they'll be ready when they need to, if they need to, right? It's like, what are you doing it for? It's like, I don't know. But I can't afford to wait and find out.
Have you ever read the book or watched the movie Ender's Game?
Ender's Game? No.
I read that book, I think, in high school. I'm pretty sure a blockbuster movie came out a couple years ago, and I never watched it. So I wonder if it's what I remember about the book. And spoiler alert to anybody who wants to watch or read the book. But it was about this kid who was really good at a video game. And it was like a virtual reality type of deal. I'm probably messing up some of these details. But anyways, he would just practice and practice and practice, and no one could beat him. He was just amazing. And then all of a sudden one day, they told him that he saved the human race. He's like, well, what are you talking about? He's like, well, we were simulating it the whole time, and you just saved everybody. So to your point with the military, they're always practicing, they're always ready. It's for those big light moments that, if we didn't know them, we play how we practice, right? I do this with the hockey players that I coach, right? The kids, like, act like it's a game. Like, if you want to get better, do it to your fullest potential. Go all out with this, because you never know when you're going to apply these skills to the actual thing. So if you're practicing, all of a sudden this opportunity comes and you're ready for it. You're pouncing on it. You're nimble. You're moving wherever you need to go. Be whoever you need to be. Be more than you are to achieve and to connect on this opportunity.
So is the resistance of not knowing that principle exists, or is it a willing ignorance that it does? The application of practice like you're playing, because when you do that, you get results.
Yeah, I think it's the same thing with the gratitude, right? So put yourself in the mindset of how you're running your body through the motions. Like you're doing it with the mind, with your mindset. You're doing it physically on a hockey rink. You're acting like it's a game in practice. No Allen Iverson here. No practice. We're talking practice.
So yes. That's what I wonder. Like, is it when you see people not doing it? Is it that they don't believe in the principle, or is it that they're not committed to that particular endeavor?
Great question. So I think it's the reminder that, hey, this is what makes you great, is how you practice. So it's probably more the former, that they're not aware that what they're doing now is making them better. It's just they're running through the motions.
Yeah.
And I think they know it. So maybe the combination, they know it, they just maybe forget it. It doesn't feel like it. So it's my job, or it's our job as coaches, right, to get people to get in that state to where it feels like that.
It's just keeping it front and center. You've told me before that this is the most important thing that you're working on right now, yet you've been doing it in an unresourceful state. You've been going through the motions. You haven't been following through. You haven't done the things you said. Why? It's either you don't believe that will give you the results you want, or you're not actually committed to it.
There it is. Which one is it?
Which one is it? Pick a lane. All right. It's like, okay, I'm not committed to it. Good. Now you can go. Now you're free to go and do something else they actually are committed to. I don't believe in the principle. Okay. What else do you need to see? Because that's almost worse. That might be worse. Because what do you do with that?
Well, that might be our next episode, Coach. So here we covered a bunch of topics today. So ceiling of complexity, and then we evolved into principles and practice like we play. What's aha from today? Some sort of takeaway, some sort of advice. Get a coach, obviously, right? Just shameless plug for Pro Advisor Coach. Come get a coach.
Yeah, I get a coach, get a Pro Advisor coach, get one of us, but just or not, just get someone. Someone that can help you be that. I mean, the difference with a coach is that you've defined a very specific schedule and agreement to continuously work on your most important asset. But you can have people that are in your life that are mentors and people that support you for sure. Again, it's just most people play life on the surface, right? Here's where it all comes back down to. Most people play life on the surface. Everything's okay. I'm all right. It will be okay. We'll get through. We'll see what happens. I'm fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But if you really want what life has got to offer, you've got to get underneath it and dig down to get to that stuff, because anything is available. And so if you really can't feel that, like, let's have a conversation about it. But my bet is that most people listening, watching, deep down do know that. Right? It's part of wanting to create more, be more, and explore. Humans wouldn't be where we are right now if it wasn't for that drive and putting yourself on the line. It's like, I'll do whatever it takes, even if it means death, because it's worth it. Because the alternative is mediocre and apathy, and like, I might as well be dead anyway. So that's actually really helpful. Just go for it. And if it doesn't work out, fine. You're dead. You're dead anyway.
That's your message, Coach? No, just kidding. Now, I wanted, my takeaway would be an extension of that. I just think it's so awesome to just check in and think back of all the times you've been resourceful in the past. It's so funny how forgetful we are when we come up against new ceilings of complexity. It's like, oh, I don't know. Just do what you did before. And what you did before was just remain in that resourceful state. Maybe it took you a week or two to get back to that place. Shorten that gap. Get better. Practice those things. Expect it to come when you have success. Get out ahead of it. And then you're in the state all the time. And then it's just so cool to back off and just reflect on, we're getting close to Q4 here, right? What have you accomplished this year? What are examples that you've been in that resourceful state and overcome obstacles or busted through that ceiling of complexity? We're so much more capable than our own perspective allows us to see that I just think that's so neat and so cool. And that's why I love what we do, Coach. We get to help other people to see that and to give them another perspective, another angle, so that they can go be the best version of themselves, be the best that they can be. Coach.
Boom.
We'll cut it there. Thank you for another riveting edition of Truth Seekers and Coach's Corner. We'll see you next week.
Thanks, Coach.
Thank you for watching another episode of Truth Seekers. We appreciate your interaction, so please comment, like, subscribe to YouTube, Apple Podcasts or Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. And if you want more, check out some of our links to our masterclass, The Achiever's Mindset, and come join our LinkedIn group. And what do you want to see more of? Remember, we're here to share the simple secrets of successful. So help us do that. What do you want to see? What do you want to see more of? Thanks, and see you again next time.